And I will say hello. I'm Paul Orselli, Chief Instigator at Paul Orselli Workshop. And for today's Museum FAQ video, I'm really happy to have a chance to speak with Greg Belew, Principal in charge of Hands-On Studio in Florida. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how to keep projects going when the real world intervenes. So thanks, Greg. Maybe you could just give people a little bit about your background to start out with.
Yeah, well, thanks, Paul. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. So Hands-On Studio is a design firm, like I said, based in St. Petersburg, Florida. And this has been a sort of an interesting time for us because the way our business model is set up as a design firm is most of us actually work remotely. We have a small core team that works together. So we haven't had a terrible disruption in our work process because we've really built our systems around actually sort of this type of situation. So something I could share is just really some of the methodologies and processes that we use to work remotely and be as efficient as possible, because that's, I think, what a lot of people are probably discovering at this moment is it's quite different than to be able to walk next door into the office and have a conversation versus I've got to do that remotely and keep up with the information flow in a way that I'm recording it and I'm tracking all the changes that are happening, because projects have many tentacles that go out of them, and I'm basically the project manager of all the projects that we do. And so really one of my main chores is to be sure that I'm getting team members what they need in a timely fashion. I'm receiving that information, and then I'm then turning around and dispersing that to other team members that needed to work on their projects. So I'd say one of the most important things for me is documentation of the process. And I think one of the easiest things for people to do right now that are being forced to work remotely is have a regularly scheduled, just a team call. I have clients that we have a team call on Tuesdays, or we have them on Thursdays or Fridays, and it's just a regular check-in that everybody knows we're going to touch base, and it gives a chance for everybody to sort of catch up on where they're at or any little course corrections we need to do. But those meetings aren't efficient at all if you don't have an agenda. It can be super simple agenda. Just let everybody know what we're talking about. And then if you have the call, then also have follow-up notes. So I basically just take the agenda that we just talked about, and I then rename it call notes by that date, and then just record all the things that we decided and shoot that out. And I do it immediately after the call, because as soon as you set it off to the side, another brush fire starts, and you don't get to it. So
those notes are just written notes, and they're stored in a accessible place like Dropbox or some Google Doc or something.
It is not an email. Email is not a storage system.
Okay. No, that's good. I mean, and
I can talk about email a little bit in a second, because it's a powerful tool and a powerful enemy for you if you don't manage it.
Well, I guess part of the reason I asked about how you take the notes and where you store them is there are lots of ways to do that, and we're recording this as a Zoom call and stuff now, so I like the idea of quick follow-up, and that it's in an accessible place for everyone, but not just trapped in their email boxes.
Right, and so we use Dropbox. And the way we have a standard standard folders for every project. And we have the architecture, we have exhibits, graphic design, just call notes, design submittals, graphic submittals. It's about 13 folders, okay? And it's numbered 1 through 13, so they always show up in the same way. We've ordered them in the order of priority. And then all documents that go in those start with the date, okay? And we do it by year, month, and date. So it's 2020, 03, 27, and then underscore, and then the name of the document. And what that does for you, it automatically puts them in chronological order. So you're not digging around for the newest document, but it's buried 3/4 of the way down because it starts with Y, right? So it's very easy to keep up with what's going on if you do that. And if we use Dropbox, there's lots of ways to do it. One of the challenges that I'm pretty sure is happening right now is if everybody can't get onto the main server and they're having to set up, Dropboxes or some other file sharing system, is you're going to have to be really disciplined about the size of the files you put in there, because unless you buy Pro, people they're going to run out of memory or storage capacity really, really fast. So if you're doing graphic design, don't be throwing your full-size files in there, or very quickly people won't be able to get in there. So that's just I've had that happen, and it's kind of tough to deal with that. So that's how we do our file systems, and then I just send an invite to a client or a team member that needs to if they need to get a specific folder, I can send them an invite and they get it. That's a really efficient way for us to do it. And one of the things that we've been doing that has really saved me many times is every single project has a sent receive folder. And I just put a folder in there for everybody that I work with. Everybody has a folder. And inside of that is a sent folder and a receive folder. And anytime I get an important document from somebody, or I send them an important document, I put it into their sent receive by the date, that same system. And so instead of having to always go back to the main folder, if I'm in a real fast exchange with somebody for that week, I can really quickly go to their sent or receive folder, grab that document, and access it. So it's just a sort of another layer of organization that it's just the way my head works.
But that's a way that you can easily track after the fact. But that sent receive, that's within your email.
No, system. that's in Dropbox.
Okay.
That's in Dropbox. Okay. Then on the email side, I have tons of email folders. I do, everything's by project, and then all those categories that I mentioned before, and the important ones, go in there, and I do track those. But I don't use that as a storage system.
Yeah, no, you were clear about that.
That's just fraught with danger. Then the most important thing on email for me is putting a reasonable title to the email, okay? Don't put call.
Yeah.
Or drawing.
Hello, checking in.
Yeah, right. Don't do that. And that, because it's so inefficient. And the other thing that I really try to not do is cover too many important things in one email. I have no problem doing 6 emails in a row on 6 different subjects, so that then that thread is pertaining to that. Because once you start getting 2 or 3 important things buried in a thread, I'm not smart enough to figure it out where all that information is. So,
well, although the things that you've been talking about so far, it seems that the a common thread there is really breaking these things into these manageable and retrievable after the fact chunks so that it's all clear, you know, everything in its place and a place for everything, or however that saying goes. So
yeah, and just another layer of that for graphics, as we all know, is one of the most complicated things to track changes on, because I mean, it's not unreasonable for a graphic to go through a dozen iterations, right? And so even on the text, on the copywriting side, you might go through multiple versions. So we use the the B1, B2, B3 on any written document or a Word document. We have a template for text, and it's always B1, B2, B3, and it's really, if I send you my comments on a graphic file, text file, and then you put your comments on it, send it back to me, it'll only take us a few days to lose track of which one's the latest one if we don't have some way for both of us. That's really what this all boils down to. Is on your end, you can look at something at 2:00 in the morning, and I can look at something the next day, and we're looking at the same thing.
yeah, and everybody, it's clear to everybody what the latest version is and what the working version is, and all
Right.
the rest.
And everybody being disciplined about what the system is. You need a leader. Whoever, in every project I've worked on with every museum, there's a point of contact. They're my lead on the day-to-day. And as long as we're on the same page of how we're going to exchange information, it isn't burdensome. It's just setting that system up at the beginning so that we don't waste time, going backwards, right?
Well, exactly. Well, it's I mean, it's sort of akin to when you're starting to think about exhibit ideas. You're having a really focused, you're setting a strong foundation for a strong message set and stuff. And It's not just sort of all over the place, because it never gets, it doesn't instantly snap into focus if you started out in some wacky sort of all over the place manner. So.
No, that's a good point. Yeah.
So you mentioned some sort of tips and techniques, in terms of organizational structure across like file sharing platforms and graphics and email and that. I'm wondering if there are any other particular tools or particular techniques as it relates to sort of keeping everybody straight when everybody's working remotely that come to the top of your head.
I mean, I'd have to say it really comes down to communication. I mean, those are really the main tools we use. I mean, we're a visual, obviously we work visually with different drawing programs. I've found I got an iPad Pro to start sketching. I wanted to quit sketching I'm pretty old school, so I would sketch on paper and then scan it. I'm like, this is a real waste of time, scanning these things, So I got an iPad, and I use a program called Procreate, which is $9.99, and I just can't believe they sell it for
and worth every penny.
Oh my God! So I have a pencil, and what's really cool is you can import anything as a background and sketch on top of it, and I use that a lot to just quickly blast off a sketch idea or a concept idea to somebody. Oh. And then it's digital. It's recorded. I name it by date, and I'm working with the museum using it right now, and it's just worked fabulous. He puts his notes on it, and we go back and forth. It's really cool.
Well, I love the notion of a digital multi-purpose collaboration tool that only costs $9.99. So
no, it's great.
Right. This is worth the price of the video right here. Just Procreate. That's a new one on me. So no, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe with that sort of background about something that's probably top of mind now for most people, since most of us are working remotely or we're working from home, or however you want to characterize that. Maybe just to flip to the other side of the coin, we were talking a little bit previously, but I'd just be interested if maybe you had a few thoughts, eventually, especially as it relates to museums, we're not going to, everything can't be done remotely. At a certain point, things are going to start coming back online, or we need to start thinking about bringing things back online. So I'm just interested from your perspective, how you are thinking about, or what you are thinking about, or talking with clients about when it comes to that point to start ramping everything back up, whether that's related to project deliverables or staffing or building aspects, exhibit aspects, fabrication aspects, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, what I'm hearing right now on the projects I'm working on, and collaborators I'm working with from fabrication, other sides, is it's going to really, for us, it's going to be about flexibility and responding to each one of the museum's particular needs. I imagine they're all going to come back in very different ways. I mean, some of them are going to be totally, I hope not too much, but they're going to be different places than they were before. The skills and the brain trust that they have in there may be a different mix than what it is now. And I see our job, which has always been just to be an extension of the museum's team, is helping them fill in on those areas where they might have holes that they didn't previously have a hole. How do we be an extension of their team and help them in those areas where they don't have the skill set right at the moment, they haven't been able to ramp that up, help them get to an equilibrium of where the projects can move forward in a comfortable and safe way for them. Cash flows are going to be different. I'm not bursting in grants and how that whole world works, but I imagine there's going to be lots of different issues that come up with that. And so, we just see it ourselves, just be responsive. And I hope what happens is the design community, like you and others, is that we're seen as a resource to help them sort of think through some of these new situations they haven't had to deal with before, so that they can continue to grow and strengthen their business model. Because that's always been a big thing for hands-on. We grew out of a museum. We originally founded a small discovery center with the Junior League. And so part of our DNA is thinking about design from a business model standpoint. Is how do you design something that puts you in a stronger position, not a cash drain or a deficit. So I think that's going to start to become really paramount. More people will be thinking about that. What does this really mean? Is this exhibition? Is this program, or is this place where I'm putting my resources forward? Is that putting me in a stronger position from a business model standpoint?
Yeah, I think obviously this this situation has forced everyone, not just museum people and not just people working with museums, to sort of think about, well, what are your priorities and how will things need to shift moving forward, and what I like what you said, how we can be a resource to the museum field, but to each other, as always. I think that's really one of the strengths of the museum world that I've always admired, is that there is that quality, maybe more than, I don't know, maybe more than some professions, that where there is a willingness to share and serve as a resource for each other. So
absolutely. I mean, I'm an architect by profession, and I had a firm for a couple of years before Hands-On asked me to start. I worked freelance for them for a number of years before I became on full time, and that's what resonated with me so much about the field, is that sharing of information and really wanting to, raise all boats, right? And so that's something that I think for us old dogs, I think it's really important for us to be a resource for the next generation. I mean, there's so many incredibly smart and passionate people. I mean, when I go to the conferences, I'm just never ceases to amaze me. The energy of the next generation, and I want to help pass on what I've learned. I mean, and you don't see that in, you don't go to the AIA conference and there's not there to just start those kind of conversations going around, or some of the other more entertainment industry type of situations. It's just different. We're in a very unique industry, and I just feel really fortunate to have been able to fall into a career in this field, and I just want to give back however I can, and I think it's particularly important right now to do that. I guess that's why we're talking today.
Yeah, no, and that, maybe that's a good place to leave it. I think I think I really appreciate you sharing your sort of workflow and work tips as it relates to working remotely, because again, as we discussed, that's of course top of mind for everyone now that they're working remotely. But I think also, we need to look to the future. And I always tell my kids, there's when something bad happens, there's sort of two choices. You can lie down in the road, or you can keep marching. And my advice: keep marching. So
that's right.
That, not in a Pollyanna-ish way or a sugar-coated way. It's not like there will be it's going to be a completely smooth and noble road ahead, but
right.
I think it's important to work together. And as you say, it's a sharing field and a sharing profession, which I think.
I talk to small institutions all the time, and help them. We try to connect them with people that can help them if I can help them. And I would like to say, if somebody sees this and wants to talk about anything further, if they found something useful in what I shared, I'd be more than happy to talk to them.
Well, you might be sorry you said that, but I know it's sincere.
Thanks.
So
it is. It's important.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's absolutely sincere. That's why I was happy to speak with you today, and I appreciate you taking the time for this museum FAQ video. We'll put a bumper at the end with the link to Hands-On's website, and that's maybe a way they can reach you through the website, so Absolutely. That you can get not only more information about Hands-On and all their good work, but also connect with Greg and find out more about their work and their team. So, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Stay safe and wash your hands in Florida, and I'll do the same here on Long Island.
Yeah, always enjoy talking to you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
All
take
right.
care.
Yep, bye-bye.